And, at the time, the first one that I did, I said, I don't know when I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do it early, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody. So I put a schedule out there Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. So if you're here, great to see you here. Let me know in the comments where you're coming in from. I've got this posted up to LinkedIn and YouTube. And today, I just wanted to first give you a quick update, kind of recap and framework of what I'm doing with these lives, and then we'll get right into it. So first, I'm doing these live streams daily. I am doing this as a kind of 2-week trial run for me and a challenge for me as well, staying committed to what I said I was going to do. I want to improve my speaking abilities. I want to be on camera and be more comfortable with it. So wanted to just start with 2 weeks. Honestly, I was going to do the whole month in a row, but I have travel coming up in the middle of the month and I won't have internet service, so I wouldn't be able to do it. So I said, okay, I'll just do 2 weeks. And, likely I'll come back at the back of the half and I'll probably do it again. But for now, we're just going through I think it's through the 14th. And what I want to bring to these live streams is, just really, number one, be able to connect with people, especially I've got a bunch of connections on LinkedIn. I have fewer on YouTube. I'm just streaming to YouTube as part of the practice and hopefully getting some more traction in that area. I don't really put a lot of effort there. It's mostly LinkedIn where I put my social media effort. But what I want to do is just be able to connect with you more, be able to answer questions, engage, talk through things with you. And so I put together a few different areas of how I would come to these live streams and keep it fun for us. Some of it will be a little bit more structured. Like today, I'm going to talk through more of a lesson and some advice. I'm going to give you guys something at the end that will help you. And then there's going to be days where we go through a product review. I'll go to a store and buy, a product and bring it in, talk about it, the branding, the packaging, the pricing, the set that it was in, all of the things that you would look at from a buyer's perspective. And then there's going to be other days when we actually do set breakdowns and we talk through what makes a set, whether that is a natural or natural, conventional, grocery, wellness, whatever, refrigerated, whatever it is. Like we'll pick a set, we'll go take pictures of it at a couple different retailers and kind of go through and recap them and give you the insights that I would see as a buyer now, just going through shopping and understanding what they are really likely trying to do and, where I see maybe there's opportunities or what they're really doing well. And we're just going to get into it. And then there will just be some open conversation too. I want to, like I said, engage, have people be in here, ask questions, stop me, and I can pivot and we can really make this more engaging. So it's not just me talking at people for like half an hour. All right. So here's the deal. Today, we're going to talk about category review process. And it's really interesting because when you start getting into chain retailers specifically, every retailer has a process, but when you get into chain retailers, the process changes. It gets a little bit more nuanced and maybe more complicated. You throw in not just Excel sheets, but you have portals and you have specific templates that you have to use and you have different ways that you communicate. So there's all these different layers. And as a rep, a founder, a broker, whoever it is that is submitting that item into the process, it can be really challenging. And I saw this firsthand when I was on the desk. I saw multiple times that there would be a lot of slowdown on our end, on the retailer side, because of the friction caused from the rep, not necessarily knowing the process, not following the instructions, doing things that we asked, but auditing it or editing it and not really doing it the way that we had provided. And I thought it would be really useful because I was actually helping somebody a couple of weeks ago go through this process, and it just got me thinking that there's something to this. It's not easy. There's so many different ways to do it, and I wanted to help cut through the noise. And not that I can give you specifics on every retailer and what their process is, but there are some standards that we should be holding. And so what I'm going to share with you, we're going to review together, and I'm going to give it to you at the end. I'm going to give you the document. If you are live, I will, make sure to comment I'm making this up on the fly. If you're live, comment category review, and I will send it to you. If you are not, you can get the document when you sign up for my newsletter, and that link is in my profile. I will also throw it into the comments for you at the end. But this is what we're going to go through today. This video will be out there so you can come back to it and go through it side by side when you are going through a category review. This will be especially helpful for anybody new to presenting or getting into the review mix with a chain retailer. So I think that's enough setup. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let me share my screen, and then we'll get right into it. All right, should be seeing that now. Let me put that into presentation mode and zoom in a little bit, if it will let me. Come on now. Okay, let's just do it this way then. All right, so I put this file together to, again, help anybody newer to submitting, especially if it's a new retailer that you're not sure what their process is, and making sure that you're just checking the list, making sure that you have everything that you can do in your control and you've knocked it off the list. So we're going to go through this together. And what I want you to realize that there really are like 5 areas. So a lot of this is going to seem pretty straightforward. A lot of this will seem like it's really basic. And if it does to you, that's great. You're in a good position. But it's really meant to be the lowest like common denominator, right? Like I wanted to make this simple for everybody to use. It might be redundant to some, but this is going to be a great asset for when you are going through your actual category review process and going through and reviewing. All right. I actually have an old version open. Give me 1 second. Let me close that. I'm going to share again. All right, it was all the same information, but it was out of order. So let me do this one more time. Okay. So first thing that we want to talk through, I'm going to just give you the 5 main kind of areas first, and then we'll get into each one. So reading the instructions in full. I know this is what I'm talking about. Like it seems very basic, but so important because again, it didn't always happen, right? Like I had plenty of times when the instructions were not followed, and that doesn't just hurt me. It doesn't just slow me down. That hurts your chances of getting into the review. It hurts your reputation, and it hurts your trust between you and the buyer. So this, although seems very basic, is so important. So I don't want you to miss on that. If you have any questions when you're going through a category review, make sure to check the instructions thoroughly. And at some point, if you read through those instructions multiple times, you think you've got it all down and you still don't understand, it's all right to go and ask the buyer, like, hey, I've gone through the instructions, I've done this, this, and this. I'm still not getting what I need to do here. It's not going to hurt anything if you ask a question like that. Now, keep in mind, this should be not something that's repeated. If you are doing this with a retailer that you're partnering with and you continually ask questions, but it's the same information, then that's going to kind of break that trust as well and add more friction to not only the process, but the relationship as well. All right. Number 2, audit the right category manager. Again, we're going to get into the details here, but very easy to miss on this. So we'll get into the details. Meeting requests, make sure that you're following, again, the process, but there are some details here that we'll get into. Then the forms and the presentations that you do, again, it all comes back to following their process, having good structured plan in place, and making sure that you're on time is going to be key throughout this whole process. And then auditing your data. So making sure to go one more pass through, get all the information correct. So those are the 5 areas that we want to really make sure we are just buttoned up and we have everything ready to go on the right timeline and at their process, right? We want to follow their process and their instructions. So let's get into the actual details here. Reading the instructions in full. So some of this is going to be a little bit, it's a little bit of a wide brush stroke, right? Like, I don't know every single retailer's category review process, but I put some general tips here. Knowing which categories are being reviewed, whether they are a full reset or a cut-in, that changes not necessarily how you present, but it does change how the buyer executes. And there's going to be probably different names for this, but where I was at New Seasons, we had full reset. It meant that the entire category was getting reworked. It was going to have a new planogram built, and it was going to have a team come in, pull things off, move shelves potentially, expand potentially. It was a lot more work on the execution side. Also, for the buyer to plan for that execution with the schematics and things like that. So it took a lot longer for a buyer to go through that full review process when it was a full reset versus just a cut-in. And we called it a cut-in, was just, hey, we're reviewing this category, it's structured, but we're not doing the full execution of a plan. So we're going to do just a simple one in, one out type of situation. And a lot of times that meant the merch team at the stores, when they were doing their resets, would really kind of navigate the placement of those items when they got into the store. All right, knowing exactly how to submit. So again, following the instructions, they're going to give you the information of how to get a meeting, how to how to upload your presentations, what items need to go through an Excel sheet, or if they're in the portal, or if there's a separate process. And if the instructions say don't reply to the email, then don't reply to the email. I know that sounds basic, and again, this is all coming from real life experience. People have a hard time really reading the instructions and really absorbing it. I think there's some areas that maybe you skimmed over and it looks like it's pretty standard or straightforward, but you miss things like this. Sometimes if an email comes through, it might be automated, and if it says don't reply to the email but you reply, now you're waiting for a response that automated email that probably isn't even going to get to anybody. So they're not going to reply to you. meaning you just wasted a bunch of time. You probably missed your opportunity. All these different things kind of stack on top of that. All right, this one, really important. Lock in every milestone date. Make sure when you get the invitation or you understand, like you get the instructions, go through it for the dates. First thing, make sure that you put it into the calendar so that you know exactly when those things are due, when you need to get things completed. This is a little bit of an extra step. It's not just saying like, hey, when it's due, but if you have 4 brands that you have to submit and you know that it's going to take you a little bit of time to do the paperwork and all of those things, make sure that you're building that in. And this is a great tip of just time blocking in general, how to build this into your schedule so that you don't get caught off guard and it really stays top of mind. You can build that into a schedule with a time block of 2 hours or whatever it is, and be ahead of it. You don't want to be late submitting. Such a bad look when you are not showing up to the most basic thing of submitting the products and following instructions, but also following timelines. All right, this is like such a small nuanced thing, and it sounds so stupid when I talk about it, but it actually matters a lot. And that is that the file naming matters, and in which way the retailer asks for it, you should follow that, because any little change is going to throw off how they are keeping organized with all of these pieces of information coming their way. When you think about a buyer doing a category review, let's just pick one category, one buyer. They have a category with 50 submissions. They have 50 different files at minimum. Maybe there's multiple because there's more than one brand within each submission, whatever, say 50 minimum. You have 50 files to look through. There is a reason why they ask for things in a certain way, and it's important to follow it. It, again, will slow them down. It could mean a missed opportunity for you if you don't name it properly, or if you change the order of something in the naming file, that could throw it out of bounds completely, as far as maybe that's how they search for the files to get them all together. It could be how it gets grouped together through a filter in a program, and you could be missing out. So just making sure to follow those, no matter how small it may seem. Even the date, if it says very specifically, put it in a date in this format, like 04/24/2026, follow that format. That is such a small thing, but so important. And then the last thing here is using the templates. So if they provide templates, make sure to use them. There is a reason, again, like they have so many things coming into their world, especially during a category review. Consistency is key. So using the templates allows them to be quicker when they are doing the reviews, and they're looking at these pieces of information across those 50 brands or more and seeing it in the same way so that they can quickly compare how one brand compares to another, etc. Very important to keep that in mind. All right, so the instructions kind of covered some of this stuff down here, but we're going to go through this now. And the number 2 thing here, which following instructions is kind of the table stakes, to be honest. If you're not following the instructions, then you're missing the mark. And when you get to the next step, this is actually something where there is some gray, and you could have opportunity to improve or honestly to make mistakes in a way that is really, again, hurting your reputation, hurting the trust, and it slows the buyer down. So when we look at this, auditing the right category manager, this is a tough one. If you have a retailer who is doing multiple category reviews with multiple buyers in the same timeline, they likely give you all of that information in one email and say, here's what's coming up, here's this buyer and their categories, here's this buyer, their categories. And when you are trying to match your brand to the right category and to the right buyer, it is very important to get that right. It's not going to be end of the world when you go into a meeting and maybe you requested time that you didn't need because, oh, I have a shelf stable product, but you're doing refrigerated. It's not the end of the world, but again, this goes, it just tallies up and it all compounds. So if you're doing these things consistently, it will be showing more on your reputation and who you are as a partner. Are you easy to work with or are you not? And what I think can be really misleading sometimes is sometimes the category names are fairly generic. It could be international foods. Like there could be items that you carry that maybe fall into that. In your mind, it might fall into that. If you run across those issues or that maybe a question, if it fits, feel free to ask. Don't worry about asking. Again, what I would do and suggest is go through this entire list, look through everything, get your ducks in a row before you go and request your meeting or whatever that next step is. Make sure you have everything that you need. If you have questions, get them all together so that you can put it into one email and not bombard them one after one after one, one after another, with multiple questions across different areas of the process. If you can knock it out as much as you can, if you have multiple questions, it's okay to ask, but try to make it as easy as possible for them. So what happens is if you come in and let's say it was refrigerated desserts is a good example. If I'm doing that category review and you come in with some truffles, but they're not refrigerated, but you just saw desserts as a category. You kind of blocked out the refrigerated part. That gets you a meeting that you do not need in the time frame. For my day, if I have my meeting stacked, it's going to set me back in a sense where a lot of times we don't have enough time in the day to get to everybody. So you potentially lose a spot for somebody that could have had their item presented, and it becomes frustrating to the buyer. I would say sometimes there is a little bit of there's a little bit more grace, I guess, or excitement sometimes when you have a full stack day with no breaks and then somebody comes in and they're like, oh, we actually don't need a meeting with you. You just get 10 to 15 minutes back. So as a buyer, selfishly, sometimes that would happen, but most of the time it's like, hey, I could have used this time for other meetings. I could have planned for something differently. We could have shuffled the meeting times around. We could have used the time more optimally. So that's generally speaking what you want to get ahead of. So you want to just make sure that you're checking the category segments carefully. Make sure that the name actually covers what the product matches. And again, if it doesn't make sense to you, or you're questioning it, feel free to ask. And if you know people that are used to that retailer, ask them before you go to the buyer. Get resourceful and find a way to figure out your answer before you get to the meeting time and show up with wasting the buyer's time. The one thing here I really want to call out is if an item doesn't actually fit into the category review, please don't force it. You can certainly do this in a tactful way, and then there's ways where you can come in and just try to force it into the process. That latter way is what really can slow buyers down. It frustrates them, etc. So we want to avoid that. Of course, if you have something else in like a new item that maybe just came across your desk, whatever, you can certainly bring that up. You don't necessarily have to do a full presentation for it. You can bring that up when you put in your meeting request and say, hey, I've got a meeting for this. I also got this new brand on my desk. Do you mind if I bring you a sample and let you try it? Just something simple. It doesn't have to be super hard and crazy and difficult. It really doesn't. All right, so that's pretty much it for the making sure that you have the right category manager. It really is important just to make sure that you're working closely with them. You earn the buyer's trust by doing this properly. And this is one of the biggest areas that things get missed. All right, so moving on, meeting requests. Some of these are very basic and simple, but just making sure that you're getting ahead of it and showing up with the right standards. Submitting before the requested deadline, respect the time format. Sorry, I'm going to pause there. Submitting before the requested deadline. So that's just a basic thing. Again, table stakes. Just showing that you are a good partner. Get the request in on a timely matter. We don't want to have to go chase you down and figure out if you are getting a meeting or not. And honestly, if you're a small brand, you're not going to get chased down. If you're a big broker that has like 10 brands that are probably reviewing, then we probably will chase you down, but it's going to hurt the relationship. Okay, and then going forward, respecting the time format. So booking the blocks as specified. So for us, when we were doing our reviews, we said 15-minute blocks of time, and we would give about 5 minutes per brand. So if you have 2 brands, you should be able to get that reviewed in that 15-minute block. And a lot of people would request 30 minutes because they had 2 brands. And we had to correct them and say, no, we can review that in 15 minutes. Like we give 5 minutes per brand, including, that kind of helps with the setup and everything else, transition. So it is a really short timeline, but if that's the process, respect it. If their process is 15 minutes per brand, then go ahead and do that. You just have to follow the instructions. Coming back to that. All right. So a couple other things here. Really want to cover the in-person when it's offered. Look, it's really easy to default to virtual if it is across the country or a state over or, few hour flight, whatever it is. It's really easy to default to virtual. When you can, and it makes sense financially, and it makes sense to get you into the room, I absolutely encourage you to do that. Now, you have to play that to your own business and make sure that it makes sense. Like beforehand, make sure, is this the right retailer? What are the chances of success at this retailer if I get on shelf? Am I in a position with cash flow that I can afford to travel and do that? Is it worth the investment? And if it is, when you go through those checks, I would just encourage you to go in person. It is so much more valuable when you can speak to the buyer right across the desk, look at them in the eyes, be able to shake their hand, all of the things, see them in person when they are trying the product. All of the things that come with in-person meetings are so valuable. And I know sometimes virtual is the way to go and you have to. It's not the end of the world, but when you can, try to do it in person. All right, and then one of the last things here is sometimes the request might be pending or you don't hear back on something and you're kind of like left in limbo and you're waiting. Make sure to follow up with whoever they designate. Sometimes the instructions come from one person and they will handle everything. Sometimes it comes from one person and they expect the category managers to handle any issues or questions for their own categories. So just understand what that is. Again, follow the instructions and you'll be good because they should outline it in there if you are to reach out to one person or a specific category manager that applies to you. All right, we're 30 minutes in. I was only going to do 30 minutes, but here we go. I'm going to wrap this up in the last two sections. And then what we'll do is, again, I want to get this file to you to help you out. So at the end, I'll give you a reminder on what that process looks like, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so forms and presentations, again, making sure to submit ahead of the deadline. Don't do it the day of or make it a last minute thing. Like, just be prepared. That is the standard of showing up, being a good partner, keeping it easy for the buyer. Bringing compelling data. So depends on the retailer. Usually if it's a regional retailer, they're definitely going to want regional data that's preferred over any kind of national data if you can get it. Even if it is like Whole Foods and Sprouts, it depends on your situation. If you are a regional brand and you're looking to stay regional, bring the data for that region if you have it. If you are a regional brand but you're looking to go national, bring a couple different versions here. Like, how are you doing in the region, but then how's the category doing as a whole for the nation? So that data just has to be applicable and really make sense for that retailer and for your brand, and how they combine and really come together in that meeting. Making sure to print and organize for any in-person meetings. Couple things here. If the buyers or the category managers don't want it printed, don't print it. Bring it digital. Some of them will want it digital. If they don't, I personally like, and again, this will come back to follow the instructions, but typically hole punch it and make sure it's printed in color, like you're putting your best foot forward, making it easy for them. Again, that is the theme here. Like, make it easy for them to say yes to your product and to you. When to submit promo planners. So this is also going to vary by retailer. Follow the instructions. If they want a promotional planner, like a draft, to go ahead with the meeting, then they can. Otherwise, they might have different ways of how you get that information to them after they accept the product. All right, another good one here, sample rules. So again, follow the instructions, bring the quantity, what they specify. Usually it's like 1 to 2 items per, or 1 to 2 units per item. And for frozen or refrigerated, make sure to coordinate ahead of time. Make sure that you can figure out a date, you can send tracking, or however that works best, so that the category manager knows when that product is coming, what to expect, and like how many they should expect, so that they can plan and create the space required for it. All right, last section here, auditing your data. It's pretty straightforward, like all of this. Go through the UPCs, the item codes, case packs, make sure that you are getting all of the correct information in there. It really sucks when you get so far down the line and then you realize you had a different item code or something happened, there was a mismatch, and it really slows down the process and potentially delays a launch. Cut-in dates must match. So this, again, is going to vary by retailer. Sometimes they're very specific with, hey, we're doing our resets in July, but the reset starts July 11th. Sometimes they just say, oh, our resets will be in July, and we don't have the specific schedule yet. Just follow the instructions and what they have. But if they request specific dates to be put down, put those dates. Again, cost, dimensions, any kind of freight, how that stuff is getting to the store. Make sure that you're double checking it, triple checking it. And then the last thing is just checking the status field in whatever that system is, right? If it is a portal, there's likely a way for you to see if it is approved or if it's still in review. And there's going to be differences by retailer. So just go ahead and check with them or check the instructions before sending that email about where are we at in this process. All right. The bottom line here is that this process is, if you are new to working with the retailer, it's your first impression. So it's how you operate. And if you're not new and you're current current rep or a current founder already working with the retailer, it's not necessarily your first impression, but it is an impression of you and how you operate. And so the whole philosophy of the buyer's perspective and being buyer ready is to build the trust that moves sales. Like you have to be buyer ready in order to make their job easier and get them to say yes easier. All right. So that is wrapping this up. I want to get this file to you guys so that you can reference it when you need it. If you are live, go ahead and comment category review on the post, and I will find a way to get it to you. I'll send you a link so you can download it. And if you are watching this afterwards, go ahead and head to my profile and you'll see the link to the newsletter sign up. And when you sign up for the newsletter, you get this document in your inbox within 2 minutes. So appreciate you guys. I'm going to call it for today, and I'll be back tomorrow. I do not have a topic for tomorrow quite yet. I'm debating whether I do a product review or if I do a set review, but it's going to be one of those two. So I look forward to seeing you there. And if you guys can, please like, share, comment on this, and let me know what you think about this whole process. I'd love to get engaged with you in the community about this. All right, guys, catch you later.